They said the land was tired. But land does not grow tired. Land remembers. 3 months after Okiki was buried, the soil around his grave stayed wet. Even under the burning sun. Seeds rotted instead of growing. Children stopped laughing at night. And the elders began to dream of a man pointing at the ground, asking a question no one wanted to answer. They claimed Okiki fell into a quarry. But the land knew the truth. And when the earth finally decided to speak, it did not use words. This is the story of a village that tried to bury the truth. And a land that refused to forget. Okiki was an industrious farmer. He was a gentleman, but the wielders of power in the village tagged him as arrogant because he protested against them. After they got rid of him, the land was never the same again. Whenever strangers passed through the village and asked why the earth had cracked like broken pottery, the elders would sigh and say the same thing. The land is tired. They said it as though land could grow weary like humans. As though soil could simply decide to stop responding. When the rains failed, they said it was a bad season. When the yams shrank and rotted beneath the soil, they said the ancestors were testing their patience. When the cassava leaves curled and blackened before harvest, they said time would fix it. But deep inside every hut, behind closed mouths and folded hands, everyone knew the land was not tired. It was angry. And the anger had a name. Okiki. 3 moons ago, Okiki was buried at dawn. No drums announced his passing. No prayers were said loudly. No dirges followed his body to the grave. He was buried quickly, like something dangerous that needed to be hidden. The council told the village that Okiki had fallen into the quarry at the edge of the forest. That the ground gave way beneath him. That accidents happen. And the villagers nodded. They nodded because they were tired of conflict. They nodded because they wanted peace. They nodded because asking questions would rearrange their lives. But the truth was heavier than silence. Okiki had not fallen. Okiki had spoken. He had spoken on the day he saw the council take land that did not belong to them. He had spoken when he saw the boundary stones moved in the night. He had spoken when a widow cried that her farm had been swallowed by the council's decree. Okiki had gone to the square and asked a simple question. Who gave you the right? The square fell quiet that day. Not because Okiki was wrong, but because he was right. The council warned him. They told him to be careful with his tongue. They told him peace was more important than truth. They told him some things were not meant to be said aloud. Okiki refused to swallow his words. That night, he disappeared. They said he fell. But the quarry did not collapse. And the ground did not betray him. People did. When Okiki's body was lowered into the earth, something strange happened. The soil softened. Not like ground welcoming the dead. But like a mouth closing over something it had long awaited. 3 days later, the rains came. Heavy rains. Rains that promised abundance. The villagers rejoiced. They planted again. They waited. But nothing grew. Seeds rotted where they lay. Yams turned black and dissolved. Even weeds refused to rise. It was as though the earth had swallowed a secret and could not digest it. At night, Okiki's grave remained damp. Long after the rest of the land dried. Children avoided the place without being warned. Dogs circled it and whimpered. Goats pulled away violently whenever they were led near it. The land was restless. The elders blamed the weather. They blamed forgotten rituals. They blamed the ancestors. Some even blamed Okiki. They said he must have offended the spirits before his death. They said his restlessness was disturbing the soil. But the earth knew better. Because the earth had heard Okiki's last breath. It had felt his blood. It had received his truth. And the earth does not forget. Hunger crept into the village slowly. First, it was whispers. Then it was thinner soups. Then it was children crying at night. The elders called meetings. They slaughtered goats. They poured libations. Still, the land refused. Then the dreams began. People dreamed of Okiki standing at the boundary stones, pointing. People dreamed of their hands covered in soil that would not wash off. People dreamed of the ground opening, not to swallow them, but to speak. The elders stopped sleeping. Especially Elder Adekono. Because Adekono had been the one who ordered Okiki silenced. Not killed. Just silenced. But silence is a slow death. One evening, as the sun bled into the horizon, an old woman stepped into the square. Her name was Aya Obe. She had been quiet for years. Ignored. Dismissed. But when she spoke, the air changed. Okiki did not fall, she said. The square froze. We allowed him to disappear. Someone told her to stop. Another begged her to think of peace. Aya Obe shook her head. There is no peace in a lie that eats children. She spoke Okiki's name. And the ground trembled like a chest finally releasing a breath it had held too long. That night, rain returned. Gentle and forgiving rain. By morning, green shoots pierced the soil around Okiki's grave. The villagers rejoiced. They said the curse was broken. They were wrong. Because the land had not forgiven. It had only acknowledged the truth. And then what they never expected happened. As crops began to grow again, the farms of the council remained barren. Only theirs. Life returned everywhere else. But the land beneath the council's feet stayed dead. No yam sprouted. No maize rose. No cassava survived. The earth had made a decision. It would feed the innocent, but starve the guilty. One by one, the council fell ill. One by one, they confessed, not to the people, but to the soil. Elder Adekono was the last. He crawled to Okiki's grave at dawn. And there, trembling, he admitted the final truth. Okiki had not been killed for land. He had been killed because he knew something else. Okiki had discovered that the elders had been sacrificing strangers, quietly, slowly, to keep their power. The quarry was not an accident site. It was an altar. The earth drank deep that morning. And when Elder Adekono died, the land softened once more. Not in anger, but in completion. People believe they can bury guilt deep enough to silence it. They are wrong. Because when humans refuse to remember, the land does it for them. Because the earth is a witness. Some stories are not meant to accuse. They are meant to remind. Thanks for watching. Kindly subscribe to discover more of our stories.